Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Silo Season 1, Episode 9 reaction and review. I feel like if you are like us, your jaw is probably somewhere close to the ground at this point. Like, what a crazy episode. There's so much that's going on here. There's so many allegiances that are sort of topsy-turvy. It's like, do you really know who is with who at this point?
Yeah, and they've introduced some new mysteries too, like what's up with the glowing 18 keychain that Bernard is holding onto
Yeah.
that also has an 18 on the hard drive. I mean, they've opened up some more mysteries with one episode left. You guys,
Bernard, how much more do you know? Are you telling it
so
to
much.
really anybody? Bernard ain't go. Okay, a lot of people probably going to get killed on this show. I do not believe that Bernard is going to go because I think we at least need somebody to be the keeper of secrets for a little while. And if that is him, so be it. I don't know if it's going to be Sims. Sims got a family. He's got other things to worry about.
Sim's hands are not clean.
No,
in
no,
this.
no. Listen,
You're over here dying on the Sims hill.
I'm not dying on this. Listen,
His hands are not clean.
This episode gave a little bit more humanity to Sims.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it gave a ton of humanity. That doesn't excuse the hundreds of other things that he has done. But
no, it absolutely doesn't. But this episode really set things up for the finale coming up next week. I mean, I'm really excited.
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm happy at least that we have a season 2, so we don't have to like boil over that anxiety. But we're going to get into everything that happened in episode 9 and theorize and discuss here. But if you guys want more, head over to our Patreon. We have a link in the description. We have over there a brand new Silo video previewing the season 1 finale and raising the big question of, is Juliette going to make it outside? Like, it is a huge question. There's so much that we get into over there. Thank you to everyone who has joined our Patreon so far.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, so this I'm so gobsmacked by a lot of this. I don't even know where to start.
Okay, let's just start with some of the outside sort of questioning.
Okay.
Like, we saw finally that Juliette was able to see some of what was on this hard drive. So she had a few things answered.
Yeah.
One of them was, did George really love her? And
Yeah.
I don't know that I needed to know this, or if Juliette even needed to really know this. I mean, he came on and was basically like, hey, this is a video. Like, she wouldn't know what that is, but he's like, hey, look at me. I recorded a video. If you're watching this, either together we're like, ha, 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 or I'm dead. But he basically admits to her that he originally came together with her to use her and that he ended up falling in love with her. And I was kind of like, it's a little bit convenient that that was in the video. I don't think it needed to be in there because he would really have no way to know that she was told any of this from his ex or anything like that. It must be something that was just weighing on his own guilty conscience.
I think that's really it. I think for all of his scientific research, I think George was clearly a man who did have some element of emotion, some element of heart. I think he did care about Juliette. Like, I am sort of with you though with the question of did we really need to see it? But I think it really comes down to me is just like, do I buy George and Juliette fully as a couple? And I think a part of it was just that we didn't see enough of it for me to be invested in that relationship. Like, I am, and this is probably pretty fraught because it's clearly not going anywhere, but I'm sort of more invested in Juliette and Lucas from the cafeteria. And it's just, but I think really the thing that I have to sort of remind myself, because I love a good love story and I get sucked into them sometimes, but this is not a love story. This is not a romantic show overtly. Like, there are relationships, but I don't think that we're meant to sit here and feel all that secure about any of them. Like, the real purpose of this hard drive, rather than George's confession, is to sort of get this information out there because George did clearly care enough about Juliette and ultimately come to trust her enough to share with her some of the things that mattered the most to him.
Yeah, and one of those things is why Allison went out to clean and that he wanted to make sure that Juliette knew that. and that he trusted her enough to tell her why that happened and to click on this other video to sort of see what, what Allison saw, which is the same thing that Holston saw, which is this outside green world with the same formation of the same birds that go by. So, I mean, like, again, it's like he's not really giving enough information, and he might not have all the information. He may be thinking like, hey, this is the outside. This is what it looks like, without knowing that that was what was in the visor of two other people, and it was exactly the same.
That's what makes all of this so complicated, is that it all still may be lies. And I hope that it's
I
not.
feel like it
And
is.
that's, you guys are all getting sucked in. Like, we obviously know that what's in the book, that existed. Like, that, I don't think that we're looking at an alternate Earth sort of situation here. Like, I think at one point, these people in the silo lived in a version of the Earth that we all know and love. But what happened since then, whoever sort of created this vision that's on the hard drives, that's in the visors, like, what sort of ulterior motive could they really have on it? Because there is a part of me that's like, okay, I don't think whoever, whether it's Bernard or whoever the powers that are being ruling the silo, like, why would they want people to see a greener, happier world? Like, I don't think it's them.
No, it's what is the reasoning for giving them that vision when they've clearly been giving them a very different vision through the cafeteria, that this world that they're seeing through the visors is not the world that they're seeing through the cafeteria window. So why are they giving them that vision in the helmets? Because they're doing a lot in those helmets, because I think they're also poisoning them in those helmets. Like, there's a lot that's happening here. But also with this video, the most important thing I think that came out of it is George was like, the water down below is not what you think it is. The door is there to this little tunnel that's down there to the outside, is what I think we're all assuming, since the final episode's called Outside. So is Juliette really going to go down there? I mean, I think now that she has this information, she's on the run, there's nowhere for her to hide. I mean, it makes sense that this is where it's going.
George, my dude, I think you're leaving out a key piece of information here, because you're saying the water at the bottom is not what you think it is. What does that mean? Like, just think about this. Does that mean the water is poison? Does that mean that the water is going to, like, do something terrible to you?
I'm thinking, this is my tinfoil hat, because when she looks down, she thinks the water is deep and treacherous.
Yeah.
I think the water is shallow, and that because it's dark down there, she can't see how deep it goes or how far down it goes. I think that when she gets down the ladder and she jumps into the water, it's going to maybe go up to her waist or her knees or something, that she was just like, oh, all right, I guess I can just walk on over to the door.
It's also like, how do these people not know all of this already? Like, the silo has been here for such a long period of time.
Yeah, no curious kids found this.
Like, that's the thing. There's always like some 12-year-old who doesn't have enough to do that is just like, I'm gonna go check this out and nobody's gonna stop me. It's like, that person did not exist, or did they like get sent out to clean like the moment it happened or something? Like, there are some questions I have about this world after this episode. Like, that is one of them. Like, you can make the argument that, okay, it's so dark down at the bottom that like, even if somebody sees the door, they may not understand it. They might think, oh, this is like a maintenance closet or something like that.
Or it's that the water looks like it's deeper than it is, that they're just like, okay, to get over there, I have to traverse through this, but like, I don't know how deep it is. I don't know if there's maybe some sort of undertow. Something's going to pull me under. Monsters. Your mind goes crazy, right?
Yeah. I don't know how many swimming lessons they're giving within the silo. Like,
probably zero.
Yeah, like, there's still a lot of things out there. But okay, here's if I have any one beef with the episode, and it's not so much with the whole story as much as it just is like some characters, does Judicial suck? And by that, do I mean, how terrible are these people really at their jobs? Because the idea that like Juliette and her little, motley crew of people here are able to totally like trick these people into thinking they're in another place, or just the idea that Juliette's able to just like jump off the railing, not land that far below, and still find some way to sort of escape these people. how terrible are you guys at your jobs? Like, I was kind of at a certain point being like, really? They couldn't find her? Really?
No, it was the escape where it was like, it was just down the one level. She landed. She didn't break her leg.
Yeah.
She didn't land on the stairs. I was curious if she was going to be injured in some sort of way. Nope. She was completely fine, ran away. Yeah. And was able to just sort of disappear herself. I don't know, man. Like everybody on Judicial that's looking for her,
Yeah.
everybody's kind of, just lost like that. It's strange. Everybody's lived there their whole lives. And
Yeah.
I would assume that one of the things they would want Judicial to be like is go and look through every nook and cranny as part of your training. You need to know this place like the back of your hand. You need to know everything, everywhere anyone can be, because your job is to chase people down and find them.
They were instead too busy driving around your freaking clown car and being like, oh, we'll just go to the most predictable places ever. The places that, if Juliette has even half a brain, she's not going to go to. Like, let's talk for a moment here about Juliette's father, because I had a real revelation this week.
Oh, yeah?
I just now realized that's Ser Jorah from Game of Thrones.
Oh, just now, did
you?
Yeah,
just now. Like,
wow.
He has finally got away from thirsting over Daenerys, and he has now found a way into the silo. Granted, what Daenerys did close to the end of Game of Thrones probably stopped a lot of people from thirsting over her, but no, I think she's obviously not going to go to Ser Jorah. Like, she's not going to go to her own father, who she knows, number one, has a complicated history with. Number two, like, he's somebody who's obviously going to be interviewed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, no, he wasn't going to have that information, but I think it was an important conversation to have, because we saw Sims lie where basically her father was like, if this was your kid, like, and somebody was asking you, like, what would you be doing? And he tells this lie where he's like, oh, well, my kid is just one of many, so like, if that's going to save everyone in the silo, blah, 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 no one believes you. And then, of course, that isn't the case. He is trying to protect his family. He sends some people to make sure that his wife and his son get home okay and that everything's okay in the apartment, which of course it wasn't. But it all sort of ties back to Sims continuing to try to get up the ladder, because it looks like at some point he's being considered to shadow Bernard.
Yeah. And Bernard now is starting to second guess a little bit of this, just because Sims actually cares about his family. How dare Sims try to think of somebody other than just himself? Not everybody is as weaselly and as bad as you are, Bernard. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what I was wondering, like, about the keychain with the 18 on it, that it matched the hard drive. At first, when I had just seen the keychain, I was like, well, maybe Bernard's being a hypocrite too. Maybe this is going off because somebody has found his wife, his kid, his whatever, somebody that he really cares about, that he has stashed away somewhere and they need help. And they're like, hey, help me kind of thing. And he's just like, look at me. I would do anything. I'd throw my grandmother over the railing. I don't care.
Sure.
But really he does. But now that it's attached seemingly to this hard drive, I'm like, 18. Okay. There, 17 other hard drives out there. Like, how big is this?
I think...
Is there 18 other silos? Like, what's going on?
I think there are at least, it's going to sound like a weird number, but I think there's at least 25 hard drives.
25 hard drives.
Yeah, and here's my reasoning for it. I don't think this is the first hard drive. You don't just randomly pull 18 out of your hat unless it's just sort of like that particular model of hard drive, which I don't really believe, because it's hard to think there would just be one. I also have a hard time thinking that this is automatically going to be the last one. Like, I think they are leaving the door open for a much bigger mystery here with some of these, where all of them to some extent could hold some packet of information when it comes to the silo's history, because, Bernard clearly is sort of a keeper of at least some of these secrets. And while I think the ideology of the silo is very much, we don't want people to know the truth about the past because, we don't want them to know that it's real, or whatever the motivation is, that doesn't mean that you don't want anyone to know anything. Because I think if you're going to control people, you have to sort of know what the answer is. It's sort of like, let's say you're playing one of those like murder mystery games at night and you have somebody who's running the game. That person needs to know who the killer is. That way, if other people start to guess the killer, they can sort of drive them off the scent a little bit. You got to find a way to make sure that people stay off the scent. And the only way to do that is to actually know the truth yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that Bernard really is the keeper of the secrets. And, you know, this whole thing with Sims was part of a big test. And I think Sims blew it. And that could make it really interesting going into this finale where he thinks maybe because he's blown it, that he's like, okay, then my family has to be number one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that they're taken care of. Or to get that position of power that his wife is really pushing for as well, then he's going to have to get even more sort of darker with it.
And if that happens, oh God, I don't want to say it. It's bad news for Billings. Like, I'm really worried for Billings.
Oh, Billings is up the creek with some stuff. I mean, it was a very interesting conversation he had with his wife where she was basically like, you're putting yourself in such danger. You have a wife, you have a baby, like this job is not more important than us. And I understand, you know, that having this job is important to you and it's important to you because you have the silo syndrome and you need to prove some stuff to yourself, but you can do that another way and have it all kind of thing. And Billings is like, nah, it has to be this way or no way. But we ended up seeing just how good he is as sort of a detective, as a cop, where Juliette's apartment had been cleaned out and he was still able to figure out where that brochure was.
I really like Billings as a character.
I know, I'm all in on him.
I know. It's like we have really been on an emotional journey with Billings, haven't we? We've gone from
been on a journey with him,
thinking that, you know, he's just ultimately just this terrible dude who's just gonna wreck Juliette, to like trying to have blind trust in him. And it's like, now I do fully believe him. I fully think that he is going to be someone who either helps Juliette, is going to be a force on the inside. It's going to be somebody who can really put a stop to some stuff, because like he knows, because of silo syndrome, he's on borrowed time with his job. He may try to argue it with his wife or be in denial or whatever else that he can, but there's only so long he's going to be able to do this. So it's like, what do you do with the time that you have? And I want to see, you know, and this is just my own tinfoil hat theory here, I want to see a little resistance group that really kind of is born out of a lot of this. These people who are all being questioned at length at this point. Like, you know, Martha knows a lot of people and, you know, she is down low in engineering. I think she does have a position of a significant amount of power. If there's a way for her and Billings to sort of link up. Lucas, I know he hasn't always been willing to go the extra mile for Juliette here or there, but, you know, he's got a little something for her in his heart. I think he will, if the chips are down and the stakes are high enough. I think he would try to help.
Maybe.
I believe in you.
We don't know Lucas that well. They like shared a half kiss before Juliette was like, no. Like it's not fully anything yet. However, her relationships with Billings is like, they have really built some trust. He's now found this brochure where he burned up most of it, but pulled a page out to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna pull a Greg from Succession here and take a couple pages out of it, just as insurance in case things, you know. I was like, good for you. That is the way. You can hide that a lot easier than you can a whole book of things. I think if anyone's going to sort of end up leading a resistance of some sort, it's probably going to be Billings. He's going to be up against the wall that they're going to figure out about him having the syndrome. He's going to have this in his back pocket, literally this little piece of paper from the brochure in there that he can gather more people to be, you know, up on a soapbox. Look at this. This is the ocean, or whatever page he pulled out, to just let people know you're being lied to.
cousin Greg analogy is great. So
It's very true.
let's roll with this. What if Billings is Greg, but actually really good at his job in all aspects?
Very smart. Yeah, he's a smart Greg.
Yeah, because Greg was really good at, like, getting information that he could hold over other people. But
Yes.
now you're combining that with somebody with a legitimate skill set, somebody who is good at sort of understanding and solving things. And I think the most impressive thing for Billings all season has been his ability to leave us wondering where his allegiances are, because he's so good at telling people what they want to hear.
Yes.
I think we are kind of at the point where that's starting to run out, but I think he can hold on to this potentially for a little while longer, at least long enough to sort of get more answers out there. Because as far as we know, there's not another replacement lined up for sheriff or, deputy or anything. It's not like they can just off Billings in the blink of an eye and everything's going to be hunky-dory in the silo.
No, Billings is a really complicated character. He wants to show that he can do his job, that the silo syndrome's not going to stop him, but he also wants to do the right thing. He wants to stand by the pack, but then he's also learning that things are not what he seems, that he's believed in something that has a bunch of holes in it, that, he is being lied to. Everything he really believed in is not what it seems. Billings is a really interesting character. He's one of the most interesting characters on this show.
And now we only have one episode left, everybody. I'm really bummed out because I know there's going to be a lot of stuff that we probably want more answers on that we're not going to get this season, but
I think we'll get some. This show is fairly good at bringing up a mystery or bringing up, a murder or something, and then being able to wrap it up, but then give you something else.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm really curious to see is just how much longer this silo can be under some measure of control. Because I think our boy Bernard here, okay, he's not really our boy, but Bernard. He's
not my boy,
no,
he's your boy,
he's not my boy, he's not my boy, he's nobody. Okay, Bernard.
Billings is my boy.
Okay, what, you trying to claim Billings now?
I just did.
I see. Okay, well,
your boy Bernard.
I'm going to burn this silo down if Bernard is my. No, okay, Bernard though, he obviously knows a lot of information, but I don't think he's a capable leader for a second. I've yet to see a single thing that makes me feel like people are gonna fall in line with him. How long is he gonna keep this under control? Because everything seems like it's on the brink of utter collapse, and I don't think there's a genuine leader in there to rein everybody in. I think Sims is a much more charismatic person than Bernard is, but Bernard is already just nudging Sims out there.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Yeah, Bernard has not shown me that he's really capable of doing much of anything except killing people. So, I mean, is that really enough to keep things in line? I don't know.
All right, well, we will take off here for now, but check out our preview at Patreon. We have a link in the description below.
Yep.
We get into a lot about the outside there. Thank you to everyone who has supported us on Patreon so far, and we'll see you here next time.